There's something rather lovely, I think, about the courtesy in our parliamentary tradition, which sees political opponents like Steve Reid taking over DEFRA, the Secretary of State for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, speaking so warmly to Steve Barclay, who was his predecessor, the Conservative MP for East Cambridge, North East Cambridge, and who had previously held the brief. But I'm afraid that's where it stops. I'm going to tell you something a bit more alarming in a few seconds. Have a look at this.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and it's a huge honour to close the debate today on His Majesty's gracious speech, my first opportunity to speak from the dispatch box as the Secretary of State. And I would like to welcome my predecessor, now the Shadow Secretary of State, to his place, but also thank him for the way he worked with me very constructively previously. I look forward to that continuing, although, of course, I prefer it this way round. It's been an honour to be present for maiden speech.
So Steve Reid is bringing this debate to a conclusion, and there's very little time left because of the sheer number of maiden speeches made earlier in the afternoon by new MPs on both sides of the House. And we saw people scurrying onto the front bench during the few minutes before Steve Reid got up to speak. He had approximately, less than 10 minutes to speak before the debate was due to stop at 2:30 promptly. And he was quite excoriating, he was quite scathing about the conduct and the care of the countryside under the Conservative government for the last 14 years. That's a matter which is, it's a moot matter. He may be right, he may be wrong. That's not the issue of this video. The issue of this video is that I looked very carefully at the seating on the front bench of the Conservative side, and two people suddenly appeared when Steve Reid started speaking. And there was a conversation. It appeared to be who was going to interrupt him. They wanted to make a point of order. He said that he wasn't going to give way because the Conservative Party had taken up so much time that there wasn't really enough time left for him to make the closing speech. As it was, he trimmed it. And he didn't give way.
Protecting farmers' energy bills against future price shocks. I'm very sorry, there's only 3 minutes left, and I need to cover the points that have been raised. We'll do that. They had their time. We'll do that by switching on GB Energy.
But in the process, these two individuals stood up and seized the dispatch box on the opposition side and started wagging their finger at him. First Kemi Badenoch and then Victoria Atkins. Now, both of these people want to be leader of the opposition. They want to be heading the Conservative Party throughout this period.
Order! Steve. The Right Honourable Lady has behaved abominably. Secretary of State.
And I have seen Kemi Badenoch behave disgracefully at the dispatch box on the other side when she was in government, and being torn down a strip by, I think, then the Speaker himself. This time it was a Deputy Speaker, and he announced, this time, not Kemi Badenoch, but Victoria Atkins, he rebuked her for her abominable behaviour. And she was slouching at the dispatch box. She didn't have the dispatch box. She shouldn't have been on her feet. It was inappropriate. And I think there are two rules that govern behaviour in the House of Commons that should be respected. The first rule is that members of the House of Commons should listen to and interject and add points of order and respond. But all of that is dependent on that first point, listened to. They have to be in the chamber to hear the speeches. These individuals hurried into the chamber for the moment when Steve Reid started speaking, it seems, with the express intent of barracking and harassing him and intervening, barking at him. Completely unacceptable. And the second thing, which is a bugbear of mine, is I think people who are in the House of Commons should be speaking without notes, which is the accepted and preferred etiquette. And very few members of the House of Commons follow that rule now. I've always singled out Stephen Flynn. I singled out Robert Jenrick the other day and praised him for his ability to hold the House with quite a lengthy speech without the slightest hint of a note. A brilliant performance. It doesn't matter whether you approve of Jenrick or you don't approve of Jenrick. You cannot fault his performance. In the same way here, it doesn't matter whether you approve of Steve Reid or his proposals, the Labour Party or not. You cannot fault the fact that Steve Reid had the dispatch box, and it's up to the person who is speaking to give way or not when somebody stands up on the other side. But for that person to grab the dispatch box and start wagging their finger is an unacceptable abuse of power. It's bullying, and these people don't know their place. I cannot see that somebody who is so arrogant, so lacking in humility, so lacking in reverence for the rules of the House can possibly assume the mantle as leader of the opposition. I cannot see that these two individuals, both of whom want to be leader, could possibly merit that honourable position. They are better served by being in the dustbin of history and quietly forgotten. They are an utter disgrace, as the Deputy Speaker said. Abominable behaviour, and behaviour not becoming an MP. They're only just into the job, and they don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. And these are seasoned professionals. Seasoned professionals, well, they've learnt the wrong tricks. And there are times when somebody who cannot understand the right tricks, who has got into a habit of the wrong tricks, simply needs to be shown the corner and told to wait. These two people should not be given high office in this coming period of government. They should definitely not be given the opportunity to become leader of the opposition. Definitely not. They are a disgrace.